Oh, pleasure. Yeah. How much time do I have?
Arm wrestle. We want to see you arm wrestle with us.
Half hour? 25 minutes? Well, you'll, okay. All right. I have a handout here. Pass these around. Huh? Paul, pass these around. I just want to say this has been a very, very incredibly interesting experience, mind-expanding, mind-blowing experience, just being at this conference. And I thank Paul for getting this together. Appreciate it. It's just opened up a lot of doors, and I have not been blown away, but I feel like I should have been blown away by all of this. And the quality of the people that are speaking and presenting here have just been incredible, and it's been wonderful being able to meet so many of them and to get their cards, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it's just been wonderful, and it's answered a lot of my own personal questions. Just a little bit background. I work for the Stein Institute for Research on Aging, which is basically biological medical research being done at UCSD, and I came there, I don't know how I got hired, but fate works wonders, you know. I had been a psychologist for 25 years and had studied spirituality through being an initiate in the Sufi Order of America under the tutelage of Pir Vilayat Inayat Khan, whose father, Hazrat Inayat Khan, brought Sufism to America, to the West in the early 20s. And universalized it, brought it out of Islam. I had made a correction. I corrected one of the speakers today who said Islam, and then he mentioned it being Sufism under Islam. So I corrected him and said, you know, it's really a universal thing. It's a way of looking at life. But anyway, for the past many, many years, since 1975, I kind of reached a block in psychology. I couldn't go. I just couldn't go anymore. Just didn't have the answers. I got lost because I was, to me, psychology was a way of my self-examination and my self-empowerment and my being a better person, by finding out the answers to my angst, you know, and my craziness, my neurosis, and what have you. And it didn't do it. It didn't do it. And I don't know if spirituality has done it, but it's more so. I feel fuller because of it. And a lot of the answers and a lot of the understanding that I've derived from being a student of spirituality and being on the path has helped enormously. And so I've combined my psychology and being a psychotherapist with my understanding of spirituality to develop a kind of psycho-spiritual vision of life and being. And I got this job at UCSD. I went to California and let go of psychology. I was a licensed psychologist in Pennsylvania, but because of the heavy licensure requirements in California, they wouldn't let me practice. You know, all of a sudden I crossed the state line, I was no longer a psychologist. And I went to the ACLU, you know, and I said, hey, you know, they've derived me of my beingness. They said, get out of here. They wouldn't even look at me, they wouldn't even take the case, which I think is a very valid case. But I was ready to give up psychology at that time, because I had reached a point where I didn't feel capable of being a psychologist. I was too fucked up, I thought, to help people, you know? Too neurotic, too crazy. Anyway, so I became an executive director. What the hell? Became an administrator, right?
Sometimes you can do more good.
Well, in a way, yes. Yes, Adam, you can. And finally wound up, first I did a stint with the Hemophilia Association, working with AIDS, and doing that for 5 years. And that made me more of an executive director because now I had experience. And I got a job at UCSD being executive director of this Stein Institute for Research on Aging. Well, they have along with the research and heavy biological, medical, and I don't know if you know UCSD very much, but it's very research oriented. And spirituality is something like foreign, I mean real foreign. So is psychology. So is any kind of clinical work is foreign to them. But I came there, why they hired me again, God only knows. And I brought the psychological, spiritual perspective. And naturally, being who I am, I had to do something about it. So we had a newsletter. We had an educational component to the job. So I began writing on psychospiritual aspects of aging. Well, I just took what I knew about life and I applied it to aging. I became a gerontologist. I became, an expert on gerontology.
And what year is that?
Oh, I started this job in 98, August of 98. It'll be 5 years in August that I've been there. And quickly, because I had been studying and writing, and I love to write, and I love to speak. And I've been developing talks, for quite some time. And so I just took that understanding and awareness, and, we are, to me, everything. Everything is inside of us. You knock, you ask the question, the answers come. As I truly feel, and the Sufis has this, they call it this plane of knowing. There's this plane of knowing that we all can access. And if you access it, and really the way to access it is you got to knock. You've got to ask. And that's like prayer. It's asking, it helped me. And you don't even have to do it you could do it unconsciously. It works anyway. And the answers come. And I have not read in psychology for years and years and years. Literally 20 years I haven't read anything in psychology. But these answers started coming. And what's so wonderful about this thing here is that the answers that I came to are being fed back to me through this conference, through meeting. And not that I haven't learned anything new, but so much of it has come to me by just coming to me, by just being open to it. So I geared it toward aging, and I began developing talks on aging, a holistic approach to aging. And I sent them all to Paul. I sent all the stuff to Paul. I read one of his articles, on the web, and I criticized it. I was critical, but not really, heavily critical, nicely critical, and at the same time sent him some of the stuff I was working on. And Paul says, well, geez, why don't you speak at the conference? So here I am. He says, pick one of your talks, and give me an abstract, and we'll have you on. I said, sure, why not? And I did. And I picked one, and I picked Awakening the Elder at Any Age. And a lot of my focus has been on awakening of myself, and understanding what that is. And I see life as kind of a process of awakening. And if you look at life, that's what it is. You're a child. What does the child know? He awakens to life. He realizes he's got to go to the bathroom and the toilet, not on the floor, He realizes he's got to go to school, that there are other people in life. There's people beside mom and dad that I have to please and relate to. There's, I have to work. Oh my God, I have to earn a living. You awaken, and all through life there's this gradual process of awakening. Call it education, call it evolution, call it development. You call it whatever you want to. I like the word awakening. And which is interesting because, the mystics talk a lot about awakening as the end product of life, right? That's what you should do. Enlightenment, nirvana, samadhi, it's all levels of awakening. But it's all awakening. So we're in a constant level, we're in a constant process of enlightenment. Now, and I see this evolutionary process that's going on. There's the evolution of life, of all life is evolving, and we know that. But we're evolving too, and we evolve individually. And as I said, we call it development or maturation or whatever. We're doing this evolving. And why are we evolving? Well, there's some kind of power, there's some kind of push, I think we all feel it, to better ourselves, to be a better person, to be, well, they call it a pursuit of excellence. You know, there's all kinds of ways of looking at it, but it's somehow becoming this wonderful being, this mature being, this creative being, this exceptional being. And I think we all have this tremendous, and I don't think it's a choice, by the way. It's a choice to go along with it and how we do it, but I don't think there's a choice in striving for it. I think it's there. I think it's hardwired in our system to be the best we can be in whatever way we choose. The best crook, you know, the best clinician, best therapist, right? You know, you want to be the best therapist, the nicest guy, you know. All of these things, right? So this is this constant evolution, and it's a thing that pushes us. Now, as one gets older, okay, there's this constant process of evolving. So what is the end result? The end result to me is, quote, the elder. Okay? The end result of all this striving, of all this learning, of all this pursuit of excellence, this training, this meditating or this retreating or whatever we're doing to better ourselves, and hopefully we produce something. And what do we produce? We produce this graduated being, this educated being, this wise being, this mature being. Okay, he's all this. He comes to the end of his road. What does he do? He retires. He retires and he goes to the golf course and he goes to an old age home, or he travels, or what does he do? Well, what he should do, perhaps, and that should is not really a should, what he can choose to do, which is a better way of looking at it, is to be the elder. And what is that elder? And Zalman Schachter wrote a book called From Aging to Saging, great book. He's got eldering centers now all over the country, and there's other people, not only Zalman, of course, the consciousness of life comes to all of us. I mean, it's not just the Zalman who's thinking about this, but there are many, many people now writing about this and thinking about this, and in Zalman, as I said, is developing this whole curriculum of how to become an elder. He is certifying eldering people. It's wonderful. He is wonderful. I love Zalman. Zalman married my wife and I. I met him in '75 at the Sufi house. At a Sufi house, right? I think if I would have met Zalman before I met Hazrat Anayat Khan, I would have been a rabbi. You know what I mean? No doubt about it, because Zalman is just a wonderful being. He is, he's a Hasidic Jew, a Sufi Hasidic Jew, New Age, leery Hasidic Jew. I mean, he's done the dope, he's done LSD, he's done all this New Age stuff. His friends are monks and Zen Buddhists and, Sufi people. But Zalman's one, and that's what Zalman's doing. So what is this elder? Well, to me, it's the end road. And it's a choice of doing the eldering. And what do I consider the elder? The elder is the kind of guy, the kind of being, woman, man, who wants to give back to society. Hopefully he's got his ego needs met. He's made his money, he's had his success, he's been a great therapist for 20 years, he's cured polio, whatever he's done. Now he's acquired all this goodies. What he needs to do is to give back to society. And that's Erickson's generativity, It's that whole sense of finding meaning in giving, finding his purpose in helping. How? In mentoring. Mentoring the young, mentoring the disabled, mentoring the people, teaching the youth, giving of their time, giving of their energy, going out for social causes, joining the ACLU, joining these organizations that need wisdom, need guidance, giving of their money. A lot of these people got a lot of money. Give it. Now, the Stein Institute, Sam Stein. Talk about Sam Stein for a minute, I'll never talk about everything. Sam Stein gave $6 million to develop the Stein Institute. He's a beautiful dude. He made his money packing meat, making hamburgers. He was the first one that made hamburgers. And I talked to him, he told me how he and his wife would sit in the kitchen making them by hand, right? And selling them to restaurants. Finally, they wanted so much of it that he developed the machinery. And then before he left and sold his company, he had 350 trucks delivering meat all over the country, right? Sam Stein made millions and millions and millions of dollars. When I met him, he was 90 years old, he was about 88 at the time. He's now 92, you know? He was living in in Poway, California, nice home, but not a mansion, not a big home, not 3 cars, not 25 rooms, and then kind of a normal upper middle class home. Well, I went there, he showed me his house, and downstairs in his house, in his basement, he had a large basement. On every speck of wall was a plaque, was an honorarium, was a doohickey from some company, some organization, all nonprofit stuff. Sam had given his money away. He had given his money away. And finally, we honored him one day, and it was just mind-blowing. I mean, seriously, the room was a pretty large basement, and it was just filled with these things. And he impressed me so much. And we gave him a doohickey, which he didn't need, another doohickey, which he didn't need, some kind of glass thing honoring him. It's probably lost almost all the other doohickeys he got. But I wrote on it, I said, some people build mansions for themselves, and there are others that build mansions for others. And that's what mentoring, that's what the elder is all about. They turn to begin building mansions for others in 1,000,000 different ways, and we need these people. Now, a guide to nonprofits and to governments, mentoring the young, talk about grandparenting. I mean, there's so many young people who need help nowadays. What a wonderful thing to be mentoring the young, to go and help our youth in jails and all over, wherever they are. Volunteering for social causes, being the history bearers, helping the young remember. We have no history. One of the problems, I think, of life is there's no history. Everything starts today. We don't realize, and this is a lack of gratitude, I think. Unless you know history, you can't have gratitude in a way. It's hard to develop gratitude. You know what it is to turn on? We turn on our water, It took how many millions of years to develop that? How many lifetimes and how much suffering and energy to just being able to turn, and we do it. It's like, oh, it's no problem. We can just, So everything is taken for granted, right? And we need to remind people of what it took to do that. How much blood and sweat and tears to develop what we have here. And we're standing on the shoulders of all the people that's come before us. And the Chinese and the Japanese know this very well and honor. America, fuck, it's like today's the day, there's yesterday. What was yesterday? Nothing. We're stupid. Our children are stupid, but our adults are stupid. It's not, if it's the adult stupidity that makes the children stupid. And they're dumb. They are. They're stupid. Philanthropy, giving one's wealth. And also seeking the spirit. When you're in India, when you're supposedly at one time when you were you finished with your family thing, and you finish with the, work thing, you would do your spiritual journey. You would leave everything behind and go on a spiritual quest to find the meaning of life. You would put down the everyday, responsibilities, and you would seek your own self, so to speak. And I think that is an opportunity, too, when one gets older. To do that, to take the time now. Now you have the time. Maybe you didn't beforehand because of all the responsibilities, but now you have the time to do the retreat, to go into the forest, to go into nature, to be alone, to seek the answers that are so pressing, especially when you're older. And these answers you bring back to us. You go to the cave, you go to the mountain, but then you come back. That's the Sufi way anyway. You come back and you give your message, you give the answers, you help mankind. That's what Buddha did. Buddha could have stayed in bliss, right? He just could have hung out with his bliss in nirvana, wherever he was, under the Bodhi tree. But no, he came back. And he taught, and he taught, and he taught, and he taught, and he traveled, and taught the message of liberty. And that, by the way, that story is the story of awakening, right? Isn't Buddha's story the story of awakening? And we think of it, it's a metaphor. Whether it happened or not, I don't know if it's meaningful, but it's a metaphor. He didn't know suffering, right? His parents kept him from suffering, kept him from pain, kept him from sickness, and kept him from watching people die. He didn't know any of these things, and he went out, and he discovered all of this, the suffering, the reality of life, the suffering of life. And then he went and tried to resolve it. And that's what happens with us. It's the same story that we all go through. It's a story of Jesus too, I think. It's a story of everyone who awakens to life, the problems of life, the suffering of life, and then does something to resolve it. And that's what I think we all need to do. That's the question that's all for. That's the existential. We need to resolve the existential questions. What's it all about? What am I doing here? What is my purpose? What is the meaning of life? Am I going anywhere? Where the hell is that? Where the hell? Well, I don't know. Now, there's a couple things the concepts that I think are very important in this. One is change. A very important dynamic that very people don't speak about it too much. Life is constant change. There is no constant in any. There is no security in life. There is only change. I remember reading, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, a Greek by the name of Heracles who said you cannot cross the same river twice. And I said, I don't know why I remembered that. I don't remember any of their Greek stuff, but I remember that. Why do I remember? You can't cross the same river twice. Why? Because the river has changed and you have changed. You cannot be the same person you were. In fact, like you wake up and be the new person, you know, that those kind of cliches, you can wake up and, well, that's true. Because you are a different person. You are not the person that you went to bed and woke up. You're not the same. I'm not going to be the same person 2 seconds from now. There's an opportunity within that to change and be different, because change is constant. One of the problems of getting older is change, to deal with change. And that's what if you're dealing with age, you're dealing with change. You know, the gray hair, you know, the physical changes, the psychological changes. There's so many changes, the environmental changes, changes in relationship. It's constant change. And one of the problems, I know I'm speaking too fast, one of the problems with older people and getting older is they're not dealing with change very well. They don't know how. Why don't they? They never taught. No one talks about it. Because we try to keep everything the same. Yeah, we try to keep everything the same. And, and it's understandable because it's very difficult to live in ambiguity, to live in the constant flux of change. You have to be very powerful. You have to be very strong and very wise to be able to accept change. Because change is growth. Change is opportunity. In fact, change creates all the opportunity we have. If we didn't have change, there would be no opportunity. Everything would be the same. There would be nothing new. As it is, everything is new, constantly. You can't hold on. Marriage, by the way, marriage is a way of attempting to stop the world. That's why it's a spiritual endeavor. This is an aside. Marriage is a way of changing the world. You make a commitment, say, doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to remain the same. I'm going to love you forever. I'm never going to leave you. It's a denial of reality. Purposely denial. That's why it's so difficult for people to do that, because it's a spiritual thing. It's beyond reason. Because there's all kinds of reasons for leaving here. Someone's going to come along, whatever. Someone talked about it. Sure. That's why commitment is so powerful. But you stop the world. It's a powerful act. You create no change in constant change. Anyway, change is very important. People have a great difficulty because it's dying. See, change is practicing dying. It's constant dying and being reborn. You know, you go through like, I forgot who it was that talked about change. Ice becomes water. It becomes water, and water is very unstable. That's the process of change. And when you're in the process of change, you're very unstable. It's very uncomfortable for most of us to be unstable. But then you freeze again. But you got to go through that period when you're unstable, and it's difficult. And that's why a lot of older people don't change. 4 minutes, you got to be kidding. So they die quicker. And that's the problem. That's how you get old, by the way. It's not changing. That's how you grow old. Old is oldness is almost like an attitude. It's a sclerosis. You know, sclerosis of the veins. You become sclerosed here. My brother-in-law was a great example of that. He had the same hairdo. He ate the same corned beef sandwiches, you know, corned beef, and he smoked the same 20 cigars he smoked. He wore the same kind of clothes. He knew everything. You asked him a question, he knew it. There was nothing he didn't know. He was the same person all the time. And that's why he died when he was 60. He was dead before he was dead. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are like that. Now, I'm going to go on. These changes bring challenges and opportunities, and that's what's wonderful about life. We used to call them life being a struggle, but that's not politically correct. We can't talk about struggle because it's negative, right? So we have to talk about it, challenge. So life is a challenge. Okay, and when were we not challenged? We're challenged, like I said, to go to the bathroom and the toilet. We're challenged to make friends. We're challenged constantly. Old age has its own challenges. To deal with the graying, the wrinkles, the slack, you know, all this stuff, you know, the loss of sex, the loss of this. There's a lot of dying when you're getting old. But at the same time, those challenges present opportunities. And that's where awakening comes in, because they present opportunities to awaken. In fact, awakening is natural if you deal with the opportunities, if you choose to. I got 2 minutes now, right, Paul? I'm going to talk a little bit. So I could talk about this for 20, 30 minutes, just the challenges and opportunities. But I want to go on and say the next step, the most important aspect of this, is the freedom of choice. And it's funny, the existentialists talk about this a lot. They call it, I don't know what they call it, freedom, and there's something else they talked about, but I call it choice. It's the one thing we have as human beings, the one thing we have that's ours. One thing I think is choice. I don't think we have much else. Choice I know we have. We can choose how we want to be, how we act in certain situations. We can't choose sometimes what comes down the pike, you know? But we can choose how we act to it. And that is like everything. Because we can choose to make the challenges opportunities, and they are. How do you gain strength? How do you gain courage? That courage doesn't come to you. You get a challenge and you act courageously. Because you have an opportunity to act courageously. You act courageously, you become courageous. And the more times you challenge, the more times you act courageously, the more courage you have. It's like Nietzsche, who said, you know, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Huh? So we gain courage, like the Israelis are getting very courageous, right? I am not saying that without, you know, lighthearted, but that's true. They're becoming terribly more powerful because of the terror of having to, you know, the challenges that they're faced with. Horrible challenges. But it's still an opportunity for growth, and there is growth going on. Now, so we can choose, and it's very important how we choose. Now, I'm not saying everyone should be an elder. It's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Everybody's going to be a mentor. Everyone's going to be a nice guy. We need our criminals. We need everything else. We need the variability. It wouldn't be life. We need that variability. We really do. I know it's horrible, but without it, it wouldn't be life. If we didn't have our imperfections, if we didn't have all this craziness, I don't know what it would be. It wouldn't be life. It would be something else. There is no nirvana on this level. No way in that regard. It is perfect, by the way, as far as I'm concerned. For the Sufis, it's perfect. As is. That's a hard one to take, but that's the truth for the Sufi. For the Sufi sees it's all God. It's all the divine function. But what do we awaken to? And just a brief thing of some of the things that I think we can awaken to, if we choose. And that's the thing about freedom of choice. You have to say yes. It's all natural. All these things are very, very natural, but you've got to be open. Someone talked about openness. You've got to say yes to life. Because you could say no. You can shut down and not grow. You can shut down and be whatever. You do not have to develop and grow. You don't have to become a mentor. You don't have to become wise. You don't have to become a good person. It's your choice. And that's okay, because without that, we wouldn't be human. We have that choice to be what we want to be, but we have to say yes. You literally got to say it very consciously. And the more you say it, the more you'll get it. And that's what's scary, too. Say, don't ask, don't watch what you pray for. Watch what you ask for, mother. Because you're going to get it. And if you say it sincerely and you say it enough, you're going to get it. And that's wonderful. And that's the power we have. You get it. Okay, I can't talk about awakening, but thank you very much. It's written down there.